welcome to Omnivision. Today we have a very interesting show for you. We're going to be discussing the Middle East wars, especially the Afghanistan conflict, and I'm deeply honored to have three wonderful guests with me today. They are two former military veterans and also an activist, and they're all involved in a very inspiring project called A Ride Till the End. And they're riding around the country on bicycles to try to help end the war and raise consciousness about what's going on over there. And I'll just go ahead and hand it off to you guys, and maybe you could maybe start with you, Jacob. You can tell us sort of what got this sort of project started.
Well, it was earlier this year. My name's Jacob George, by the way. I was a sergeant in the Army. I did 3 tours in Operation Enduring Freedom. I was going to college here at the University of Arkansas. And earlier this year, we had found out that my brother, which was in the National Guard, was going to be deployed to Afghanistan. And at that moment, it dawned on me, there's about a 9-year gap between my brother and I. And it's been almost 9 years since my first tour in Afghanistan, which was in 2001. And it hit me that there's a generational gap that this war has spanned. It has gone 9 years. It's gone long enough for me to go over there 3 times, and then for my little brother to turn 18, and then...
Right. Didn't it just become the longest war in American history, passing Vietnam this summer?
Well, I think that would be the war against the Native Americans, but...
Okay. Well, yeah, official, official war.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. And then sort of Spencer Highmarsh here. I'm sorry I didn't introduce you properly. He's an Air Force veteran. Sort of what kind of brought you into the project?
Yeah, well, just in a nutshell, my dad was a Vietnam veteran who suffered a lot of psychological damage from his experience in Vietnam. And growing up as a kid, I had to deal with that bull crap my entire life, and that was part of it. Then, despite all that, I joined the Air Force, and I got a look into the intelligence process, and I worked on a spy plane, and I got to violate people's civil liberties here in America as well. And just after all that great fun, I decided, well, I got out and I went to school for a year, and as enlightening as that was, the ride came along. Jacob, I talked to him about the ride to the end, and I realized that there's a gap, not a gap, but maybe a vacuum of information here in America, that really veterans are in a unique position. We have a great opportunity to fill that vacuum with some valuable information. So we got to talking about the ride, realizing the opportunity that we had, and I felt that it was just kind of almost a duty for me to get on board here, and so I have.
So how many miles have you guys rode so far, and where? Like southern?
Jake, how much was it?
The total was it's over 1,800 miles. It spanned Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, and Oklahoma.
You guys went down to the oil spill? And
yeah, we went down to New Orleans. You know, we were heading across Arkansas. We were at Blue Mountain Lake, actually, in Arkansas. The crucial question came up, do we want to go down to the Gulf and help with the oil spill? The reason this was kind of a hard decision was because it was going to be kind of hard to ride across Louisiana in the middle of the summer. July and August in Louisiana and Texas would be a hardship, but the ultimate conclusion was that was worth putting up with to go down and help with the effort.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so during this sort of initial part of the ride, I know you guys have been speaking to different groups. What kinds of groups have you been speaking and kind of?
Well, we have spoken at churches. We've spoken at a variety of coffee shops, bookshops. Anarchist book. The first time I set foot in an anarchist bookshop actually was on this ride, and I survived. I'm okay, and actually there were some very intelligent, enlightened, friendly people, and so really I personally have had a lot of horizons broadened, and we reached out to a variety of audiences, including some veterans as well.
You speak to some students as well? Or?
Yep, we talked to some high school students at the University of Texas down there in Austin, and it was a debate camp, so there were some pretty smart kids, and initially they were skeptical. But after talking for 2 or 3 hours, a lot of them they went from asking, they went from that skepticism initially to asking us, what can they do? What can we do collectively? Mm-hmm. So we've made a lot of progress just in this month that I've been on board.
We have the video from the debate camp, and we'll probably be putting it on our website within the next couple of days.
How can people find your website?
They can go to operationawareness.org. And they can also go to A Ride Till the End group on Facebook. We post media on both outlets.
Okay, cool. All right, and Ramsey Sprague, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and what sort of brought you into the ride.
Well, what brought me to the ride is I went down to do some shoreline cleanup as well in New Orleans, and I had just missed Jacob and his brother and the other folks that were along for the ride at that point by a day. And I had some friends in that infamous anarchist bookshop, that one of them, that had really appreciated what they had to say, and I read Jacob published a chapbook of his poetry. And so I read the book one evening and was moved and jotted down the contact information and contacted them as soon as I got back to Fort Worth and started setting up some events for them, and they rode through in early August, and we had a bunch of media events.
Is it true that you have experience doing like media work in the past, so that's going to kind of...
Yeah, I've been doing community organizing for about 10 years now.
Yeah. So it's going to kind of bring something to the table with the group to kind of help with the media relations.
Yeah, and I've been doing some like counter-military recruitment work over the last 5 years, and anti-militarism stuff for quite a while, in lots of different flavors of organizations. And it's I was moved, I had the capacity and wanted to help out as I could.
Yeah, it's a really, I think it's a really inspiring thing what you guys are doing. It sort of reminds me of Peace Pilgrim. I guess you guys have been researching her too. This woman, she ended up being like 70, 80 years old. She walked 25,000 miles around the United States just raising consciousness about peace. And it seems like this is kind of a related kind of project. I don't know. And it's really, to me, it's a really inspiring thing to see people out there really trying to, to do something and to be that committed that you ride hundreds or thousands of miles, I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So what are some of the kinds of topics that you're trying to raise consciousness about in terms of the war? Like, what are some of the main sort of points you're trying to get across to people?
The cool thing is that we all individually have different topics or different viewpoints, or really we have different heartfelt issues personally that we do bring to the table. And then collectively, we all have things in common that we talk about as well. Mine would be just the psychological damage, having grown up with my dad, and that I've seen firsthand, the collateral damage on families. I think that's one of my big ones personally. And then the intelligence or the civil liberties aspect with the Patriot Act and the spying is another one of mine personally. And then Jake being on the ground has a few different ones, I guess.
Yeah, and what you said is very true. The diversity that we bring to the table with our group is really our greatest strength. And my experience is more on the ground, dealing directly with counterinsurgency, training people on the ground. So there's a broad variety of things that we can talk about when we start speaking, and the combination of what Spencer did in the Air Force and what I did in the Army really gives us the ability to cross-fertilize our talking points pretty easily.
So are you guys focusing primarily on the Afghanistan war, or both Afghanistan, Iraq? I mean, I guess now with the drone attacks, this war in the Middle East has actually expanded to not only Pakistan, but Yemen and Somalia as well. So it seems like this war is just growing almost.
It is. I think that's largely overlooked by our media. In Yemen, we have the Houthi rebels, which have been an organization that has been operating in Yemen for quite a while, and Al-Qaeda has recently teamed up with them after they were kind of pushed into Saudi Arabia. And now they're overthrowing military bases in Yemen as we speak. So I think it is fair to say that this war has grown well beyond what we identified as.
Right.
Yeah, the war on terror is starting to grow into the war on the Middle East.